Hi, I'm Trisha at Club Scrap. Thanks for joining me for the Coastal Page Kit Workshop. We're about to have a lot of fun together creating 8 beautiful pages. Our goal is to finish this workshop with everything in place and ready for you to adhere, add your photos and your memories. So to get started, I'm going to just isolate the papers that came in the kit. I'm going to set all of these embellishments aside, but I will hang on to the photo mat. So to slide these off my pile here, we'll use those later on, and now we've got all these papers. I also have a printed copy of the instructions. It's not necessary for you to print it as well unless you prefer to have that on hand. I'm going to take these photo mats and we're going to organize them by distributing them into one of 4 pockets. Now I'm using an accordion pocket file. If you're new, this is something that we use to stay organized while we're working. It's not absolutely imperative that you have this, but it just really helps us minimize the space required to do this whole prep process. Because remember, we're making 8 layouts all at once, so that's a lot of trimming and a lot of piles. We want to keep them organized. So I'm using that file. Just reach out to us if you need more information about how you can make one for yourself. So let's get these filed. I'm going to start out by looking for 3 of the slate colored mats. Now, we had a lot of discussion internally about what to call these papers. We ended up going with teal, aqua, green, and slate. And the slate is kind of like this, that more of a cloudy day sky. Okay, so that's an easy way to remember. I'm going to place all 3 of these into pocket labeled 1 and 2, or your pile labeled 1 and 2. You'll need 4 piles ultimately. Then 3 green, we're going to put those into pocket labeled 3 and 4. And then 1 teal photo mat also into pocket 3 and 4. Next, we'll do the remaining 2 teal photo mats. Those will go in 5 and 6. And all 3 aqua go in 7 and 8. Sticking with our theme of getting prepared and organized, let's take our papers now. I'm going to stack them so they're straight up so that I can hold them in my arm or something and look at them from the top edge rather than from flat on the table. And we'll sort all of the sheets in the order we'll use them. So the first piece of paper that we need from the stack is just one of that beautiful shore print. So gorgeous. I'm going to take this one and then flip it over so that the plain side is facing up. And then next I'll grab that lighthouse print, just one of those, and I'm going to place it face down. Then reach for one of those slate. Now we reviewed the color, what it looks like. Remember, it's like a cloudy day sky. Maybe I should have called it cloudy day sky print. A little wordy. And then I'll go with teal. That one's easy to identify. And this teal paper, to me, when I first saw this paper as an option to pick up for one of our collections, I bought it before I even knew where it was going to go because it's just so stunningly beautiful. I knew I'd find a home for it, one of my favorite colors. Here we have the sheet of Cutaparts from the back of the stack. You want the one that has the like message in a bottle paper on it. Put that face down. And then the other one that has, we'll go with the sea glass here. That'll be next, placing face down. Now we're going to look for 2 sheets of that green paper, and then the remaining sheet of the slate, followed by the lighthouse print that remains with that face down again, and then 2 of the aqua, and let's see, we're going to go with the remaining shore, face down, and teal. That's all the paper that came, and we're going to use every last bit of it in this workshop. So I'm flipping everything back over to that shore print where we started, and I'm going to turn to page 1 of my instructions, and we're just going to follow along here. Luckily, you have me to guide you through, so you don't even really need to read any of this. I'm going to take care of it all. If you're new to the trimmer, just be mindful of a couple of things. There's a ridge here at the top, so make sure you rest the paper against that ridge. And by the way, I highly recommend this trimmer. If you don't already have one, it's like setting, if you're a runner and you get good running shoes, this is the equivalent of that. You want to have the good equipment to get the job done. I'm going to unlock the blade here off the knob by pulling to the right. And when we measure, then you'll slide the paper underneath this clear bar. And the first number we're going to look for is 10 and a half. Now I want to remind you that the top row of numbers here are centimeters. These are inches. So when I'm looking for 10 and a half, I find the whole number and I go left using those handy vertical columns to help me add 1/4 of an inch for each slide. So 10, to grow it, I'll go 10 and 1/4. There's 10 and a half. Before you slice, push down on this clear bar and then leave the paper lay right where it landed. Lift your blade, and now we're going to slide over to 5.5. So again, I got to find 5 and then go left to grow that number to 5.5. And lo and behold, we are done trimming this sheet. The two larger pieces are going to be placed in pocket 3 and 4. And again, for my new guests here, just be mindful that the width of your accordion pocket file, if you happen to be using one, matches the width of the paper. So I just put it in at an angle like this so I can still see the numbers on the left, and it's just going to stick out like that, which is fine. And this last strip is used in layout 1 and 2. So I'll put that in the file as well. And we're moving on to our lighthouse prints. Here, our first cut is at 9.5. So again, we got all those halves we're getting out of the way. Carefully looking at the inches, not centimeters, and then stabilizing. Then slide to 6. Finally, a whole number, 6. And back to 2.5 here, 2.5. Always go left. All right, now here you have this gorgeous lighthouse. We're going to put that in pocket 7 and 8. And then this strip, we're going to trim. Make sure it's the strip that doesn't have the little bridge on it. We'll trim this at all easy numbers here. 9, 6, and 3. And then stack them up. You've got 4 pieces of the same, 7 and 8. And the next strip with the little bridge on it, or the little boardwalk, 7 and 8 also. And finally, this last one, 5 and 6. Got a nice easy one for you next when we trim the slate. So that, again, that's cloudy gray sky. Well, it's cut at 8 and 4. Now stack up 2 of the pieces. You made 3 pieces the same size. We're just going to take 2 of them and trim at the same time horizontally at 6 inches to make some photo mats here. All right, take 2 of these and place them in pocket 5 and 6, and the other 2 pocket 3 and 4. And then I have this next strip. We're going to trim it just a little differently. We'll start out at 10 and then go to 6. And this larger piece and the square, both of them go in pocket 3 and 4. Then you have this little strip here. I'm even going to cut that. We'll cut horizontally at 2. Now this is a small piece of paper, and that's why I like this clear bar on this trimmer. I just cut it in half. Got 2 nice squares. Worked out perfectly if you just push down on that bar. And then 3 and 4 for these little squares also. Next, we're going to move on to the teal. A lot of strips to make here. I like to use these darker colors for matting the border strips you're going to find on these Cutaparts. So that explains a lot of these measurements. Our first cut is at 11 1/4, and then 10 1/2. A whole number for you. We're going to 9. 7 1/2. 6. I'm gonna do something a little weird here, moving a tiny bit to 5 3/4. So that's the neighboring column to the right. 5 3/4, and then 3. Whew, there's a lot of cuts there. Rotate the 3-inch piece you just created, and we'll cut at 11 1/2, 8, and 4. This piece you're left with, place that in pocket 5 and 6. And then the next 2 pieces, they are not the same size, right? Those go in 7 and 8. This little piece fell off the end. We're going to use that in pocket 3 and 4, believe it or not. Now we have another strip. This one is 2 3/4 by 12. It's the next widest one. It should still be on the top of the pile you created. We'll cut at 11, 8 1/4, 5 1/2, and 2 3/4. You just made 4 squares, 4 score and 7 here. No, 4 squares, pocket 1 and 2, and then the other little strip that fell, 5 and 6. Finding a home for everything today. Then we have this narrow strip. I call this a paper ribbon that goes in 7 and 8. And then we have 3 strips the same size, right? So one of them in 3 and 4, the next one 5 and 6, and the next one 7 and 8. And you have 2 more smaller strips that are the same. Place one in pocket 1 and 2, and the other in 5 and 6. Wonderful. Good work. Now we've reached our Cutaparts. Wow, that went quick, didn't it? We're going to remove the outside paper that's past that little plus sign in the corner, that cutting guide, on all 4 edges to turn this into a 12 by 12. So let's go ahead and do that. And I like to remind people that I generally make my first cut real generous, and I go back and clean it up later. Like, I still have more text in here to remove, but once I make that first cut, I can see much better at the bottom corner of the blade, so I'm removing more accurately and more, more on the money with that little hash mark. I can see the edge of my blade down here and up at the top. You may need to level it. You'll know what I mean when you're working on it. Now in this third rotation, I can kind of look over here at the 12 and kind of see how that aligns really, really well. So I'm just going to cut at 12 here. And then my last rotation to just do that final little strip to turn it into a 12-inch piece this way as well. And now that I have all those little pieces off the ends, I can dispose of them. And I want you to make sure this goes into the trimmer now with the sweet little lanterns on the right edge. And our first cut here is at 10 3/4, and you'll also be trimming between the images. So pay attention to make sure, you're not accidentally getting a measurement wrong and cutting right through an image. You want to avoid that. And then 10 1/4 is next. 9 3/4. 8 1/2. 7 1/4. 5 1/4. And 3 1/4. Notice I just let everything stack up. Every time you create a piece and you slide it over, it'll be more difficult, okay? Just let it pile. It's the easiest way, and it's a way that is easy to keep track of everything. Now this piece left in the base, we're going to rotate it so it's horizontal and cut it in half at 6. And both of the pieces will be used in on layout 1 and 2. So put it in that pocket. Now here's the cool thing. I'm going to pick everything up that landed, all these little strips. I'm going to pick them all up in one big pile, like a deck of cards, and deal them accordingly. So this Nothing Soothes the Soul, pocket 3 and 4. Then Ocean Air, 1 and 2. Sky Above Our Heads, 5 and 6. Oh Hey Vacay, 3 and 4. This narrow strip, 1 and 2, just one of them, and the other in 5 and 6, and the lantern piece 7 and 8. Let's repeat the whole process now of removing the outer perimeter of the second sheet of Cutaparts, and you can pause me while you do that. I'm not going to talk you through it. You know the drill. With that little task completed, let's place this into the trimmer again. So this narrow strip is on the right. It says lighthouses don't go running all over an island. All right, let's start at 10 1/2. Then 7 3/4. And 4. Now rotate. Got 2 cuts to make here. The first one's at 10 and 6. This larger piece and then the one with the net, they both go in pocket 3 and 4. And then you have your cute lighthouse here. That's 5 and 6. Pick up just the next strip now. And let's trim this one apart. We've got 9 1/4, 6 1/2, and 3 3/4. Now this piece is used in layout 3 and 4. And the calm is a superpower, 7 and 8. 1 and 2 on the rowboat here. And then Every Moment Matters, 5 and 6. Take the next strip here And we will cut at 9 3/4, 6 1/2, and 3 1/4. This one with the driftwood here, that goes in 7 8. And the ship's wheel, 3 4. And the awesome sailboat here, 5 6. The ship, I should call it. And then we have the little lighthouse, that goes in 1 2. This last piece, I'm gonna have you cut it at 9 1/4. And this larger strip goes in pockets 7 and 8. What you can do here is there's a slight little shadow around the circles on this piece. So take smaller detail scissors, and as long as you kind of go along the edge of the shadowy area, you should be good. Don't go too big with it. And remove these from the paper. And just do that with all 3 images. Now I'm cutting a circle with scissors, so it's not going to be perfect, but in this case it absolutely does not matter. And I want to point out something really important before you get too far into this so that I catch you while I've got you. These sweet little settings, these silver settings, they have 2 loops, right? And so you kind of need to have in mind whether or not you want the loops coming from the top to the bottom or left to right. I went left to right with all of mine, and I will confess that the first time I used these, I adhered the image without giving any consideration to the location of the loop, and it was all crooked. So once you have your imperfect circle, you just shove it down in there. Notice I put a little bit of bookbinding glue down into the bottom just to make sure that it doesn't pop out. I mean, it's very unlikely it would, but that's kind of the secret there. And then I just went around the perimeter of the piece, the paper, with our bookbinding glue, dispensed from a needle tip applicator, and I just pop that in there, push it down, and that's gonna dry and never go anywhere again. So these could be really sweet even on a bracelet. You know, you could just put some chain around it and put whatever art you want inside there, maybe a picture of your sweet little girl, something, I don't know, some art that you really like, or this. And you have 2 more of those to work with. So that's, I just wanted to explain to you how the bezel setting works. Now, this particular image here is used on layout 5 and 6. I'll just pop that whole thing right in there. And then we've got the ship's wheel going on layout 3 and 4, and the starfish in 7 and 8. I'll put the cap back on my glue here, and I always keep it in the back end of my tape dispenser, so the glue is always at the tip. And at this point, we're finished trimming, so I'm gonna get rid of our trimmer. And then let's turn to the last page of our instructions down here at the bottom where it says layouts 7 and 8, or scroll there if you happen to be using a tablet or something. I'll take the remainder of all of the papers we've prepped, put them in a certain order, remember? So I would take the rest of those, and I'm gonna slide off the top sheet to the right. So I have now in front of me my entire remaining stack on left and 1 more sheet on the right, and that is the base for these 2 pages, 7 and 8. So what we'll do is work our way from back to front, from 8 to 1, so that when you're finished with me here, layout 1 is on top, every piece is in its place where you think it's gonna go, and all you have left to do is adhering and, you know, building the lily and so forth. So now I'm reaching into pocket 7 and 8, and I'm gonna take everything out of there, including that little starfish I just put in there. And mind you that the accordion pocket file, if you're using, is not designed to stand up on its own. The trimmer is what helps it stay vertical, because it's sitting on, this little lip is underneath the base of the trimmer. So when you're not using this with the trimmer, please keep it on its back so it doesn't fall into the floor and spill its contents. I wouldn't know anything about what it's like when that happens. No clue. All right, so we've got some larger strips here. The one with the boardwalk on it is going to be on the left edge of the spread, and then the one with the big lighthouse is on the right, and that's kind of why I stripped out the piece the way I did. On the other page in this set, the layout is, the paper is whole and the lighthouse is on the left. So this is my way of adding variety even while we're repeating prints. Then we have this really skinny little 1/4 inch piece that'll go to the right of that strip to kind of help us transition. And then we have a larger strip of teal that'll go on the right and be nested with our lanterns. Really, really pretty there. Oh my gosh, I went through so many different arrangements of this page. I cannot even tell you. I just kept moving things around until I liked what I ended up with. And this, I think, is pretty sweet. So those two vertical phonomats there, and then we have one more vertical one kind of centered here. And beneath it, I'm going to put that lighthouse quote. It's going to go past the edge of that, which is fine. Then to the right of that, or to the right of it, we've got two pieces that have some printed material on it. It won't matter so much because a picture hypothetically would go on there. But the nice part that it's printed is that if you don't have enough pictures or something, if you only took 3 pictures of the lighthouse, you're fine. And then down over here, I'm going to add 2 more horizontal of those pieces. And now you have 2 teal, 1 larger for the calm as a superpower. And that's going to scoot like underneath the top left corner of that. And then you've got the driftwood journaling prompt. And I put it in this way. And then my little starfish here gets put into the dome and placed over here. I think I did add the pelican charm. This was so sweet. I topped it with some jute and added it kind of over in this area by the lanterns here. And as far as other finishing touches, let's talk about them on the actual finished samples. So you'll notice here, do you see how I don't put adhesive on the overlapping part? I just kind of put adhesive here and leave that free and clear. There's my pelican. Now I have to do a mea culpa. So I swapped the 2 colors of the jute that were included in this collection. So the card kit has the blue and the page kit has the green, but here I'm using the blue because it's wrong and still is the same kind of product. It's just a different color. So yours will be green, should be green anyway, if everything went according to plan. Then over here on layout 7, I used my little punch. This is our slot punch. I think most of you already have one of these by now, but I cut a little slot into the upper left corner of this cut apart, threaded it with the teal grosgrain, wrapped it around to the back. Here we've got the, again, pretend that's green jute, along with the dome and the seashell, or the starfish in there. So that's very sweet as well. So I just kind of looped it on like you would a luggage tag, and then run it around to the back and tape the ends with 2 pieces of the fiber. Now we stack and slide, and I will pick up the base of layout 7 now. This is the one green, and slide it on top of the other green. So now 7 and 8's over here. Now I just grab one more slate. I'm going to slide it to the right. I get everything I need to recreate what you see on the image for layout 5 and 6. So let me dig in here and extract all the goodies from the pocket. It doesn't seem like there's very much in there, but it'll do the trick. Okay, now on the right side, we will add this strip again to kind of create some balance here. And again, I'll put 2 vertical mats here, and then 2 horizontal slate colored mats on this side. Now to the left of this strip, I'm going to add a teal, and that should nest with our little borders here to create some differentiation. Across the bottom, I just left a little bit of the bridge visible, and I added the title. And then there should be a teal mat for Every Moment Matters. And I put that above the waterline, and then added my lantern in the setting right there with the fiber again. And this goes here. I fussy cut this. It just takes a matter of moments. And then I'm going to wing this out. Now what I do with this is, I do this a lot, but it works really well with these nautical themed kits, is cut a little V into the end of my, what would have been a scrap. Then I'll take my slate colored ribbon, and I'm going to fold it in half lengthwise and cut at an angle, which creates my V here as well. Then all you need to do is nest that together and tuck it in behind, and there you go. Now on my sample I'm about to show you, there's also a basic bow. So to do that with the granulated ribbon, I just make 2 loops, cross them, and run the 1 loop through the hole and pull the ends. And then you just kind of adjust, right? Now in the picture, I'll see if I can have enough time to repair it, but again, my sample wasn't quite right when I started making these pages, and I thought I had 2 life ring charms. So in my visual sample, I replaced the life ring charm I removed and added this sweet little basic bow. And that's going to go right in there. Okay. Let's take a look at our finished pages now. Oh, yes, the ship's wheel. On this, now if you happen to see how this is more wood colored and this is more white, it's pretty subtle, but I happen to have a white Pitt artist paint pen, and I just painted it. So once you have it in the nib, you can just color on the white. Okay, that's all I did. Is that required? No, I'm not even going to put it in the instructions. The advantage of watching the video is kind of getting these tips where it looks great in the wood tone color as well. And I threaded some of the teal ribbon onto the opening and threaded it around to the back, just secured it there. So that's kind of a nice little easy touch for that side. Oh, did I go over this part? Yes, this is a foam adhesive attached, and then you've got your little ribbons and nested onto the scrap. It looks really nice, very eye-catching. The facing page, very basic. I did add 2 of the buttons. Now I used a paper piercing tool, and I put the green, no, I know it looks blue, but it's green, the green thread onto a needle, so I could easily sew the button onto the strip, and then I nested the strip onto the page. Here I also just did the same treatment with using both loops to attach my little lantern to the top of this cut apart. Now I'm going to pick up the base of layout 5 and slide it over, and then 1 more sheet. Plus, in my instructions, I have to go back now to page 3. Here's layouts 3 and 4, and there's my aqua base. And I just need to empty the pocket now for layout 3 and 4. Got quite a bit in there. A lot of little guys. Make sure you reach deep down in that pocket. And let's begin. I believe the larger of the 2, it's just a 1/2 inch variation, goes, oh, it's so big there. I'm gonna get rid of this ribbon. This one goes on the right, and then the smaller of the 2 goes on the left. I may prove myself wrong, I'm not sure. No, that's a good fit. Then 2 horizontal green mats, and then 1 vertical green up here. Now there's a large border strip. This doesn't have a nesting or anything. That goes right at the top, kind of frames in the 2 mats here within their space. Then you should have a photo mat that's teal. That's gonna go right below the landscape edge there, and then nested with the larger cut apart. And this reads, "Just get me near the sea. It's Earth's most potent remedy." Indeed it is. Okay, now over in our hand here, we've got 3 4x6 slate that is going to create some nice contrast for us on those green mats. So a double mat, it's kind of nice. And then you've got this long teal strip nested with oh hey vacay. I went ahead and added 3 buttons into this open area right here, and beneath it I added the 2 little squares. So the width of the 2 squares matches the width of the green mat up here above it. And now we have that gorgeous graphic with the sea glass. And then I'm gonna just scoot that as an overlay with the sentiment. Here we have your journaling prompt, and I did my little banner trick. So you just cut a little V into the end. I do that freestyle, so it's probably not perfect. Tuck that behind here. You could add ribbon too, if you wanted to. Now over here, I added some slate ribbon as well as that gigantically gorgeous Nautilus charm. So more on that in a second. My finished page here, the addition would be the ship's wheel with the dome and the setting added on top of the journaling prompt, and the 3 buttons that I sewed on. So that wasn't a big task. I just, again, pierced the hole and threaded the needle onto the jute, and away I went. Okay. Then on the facing page, we've got a double loop or a chain link bow with the Nautilus charm. I topped it with the jute and hung it from the bow. I will quick show you how I made this one because I've been changing it just a little bit. I'll start by nesting this. I think it's nice to work with a double thickness when you're doing it so you have a little bit more stability. So what I did in this case is I ran it across to get my length and cut it. and just cut a second piece. I think this might be a little easier to do if you happen to have a tape dispenser that can secure itself to the table while you work. So then you determine the grain direction of your ribbons because you want it to like loop in the direction it wants to, right? So while I'm still holding it, I just threaded one tail through one loop, even up my ends like that, and then give it a tug. Then you just grab your thing, you've got it ready to go, right? You've got to be ready to go and prepped. And then you can center your bow and do the flip over, and your tape's ready to go. So one hand's holding the ribbon and the other hand is dispensing the tape. And I do think that that's the quickest way. So it took me maybe a year then to figure that efficiency out, but okay. All right, that is the final touch on that side. So now I'm gonna slide the base of that one over and then bring this over. And here we are at layout 1 and 2 already. Fabulous. So reaching into pocket A and everything, I hope. All right, with this narrow piece, we'll start on the left here with it maybe 1/4 of an inch from the edge. And what this is doing is making it look like I've added strips of paper, but it's really just the base of the page. Then I'm gonna go with the 2 horizontal slate colored mats here. And beneath that, this I fussy cut this. It doesn't take long, like I mentioned. Placed it here. If you wanted to edge that with some earth ink, you could do that. And then by the time you have it trimmed, it's about the same height as this piece, and it fits a lot better. So trimming it is always a good idea in this case. Same for the journaling prompt. I just fussy cut this and I added it to this area of the page with foam adhesive, being careful not to get any foam in the way of where a photo will eventually sit. Now across the top here, these will equally space. Use your grid ruler when you're attaching them so that they're at least level. I just try to get mine evenly spaced there. Then beneath, a nested strip here and a vertical mat, followed by your sweet little cut-apart that you can fussy cut as well. And what did I top that with? Oh, the anchor, the other ship's wheel, I'm sorry, the ship's wheel. There we go. I painted this one white too, you can hardly tell. Plus the brown tone, the wood color matches. I mean, I think it's a good match either way. Let's take a look at my sample here. So you can see how, again, free of adhesive, the foam adhesive is making that pop really nicely. I love that. And then I just tucked one little tip of that handle behind it and attached it over this. So kind of this is anchored by the strip. On the facing page, here we go. We've got our spaced strips here, little gap there, it's all good. And you can see how the height of these now matches, it's perfect. And I just hung my life ring charm onto the green jute, and now that's good to go as well. Really eye-catching there as well. So that's a nice finishing touch for these 2 pages. Now, if you do like this collection and you want to make some cards with me, join me for the Coastal Card Kit Workshop. We're going to make 12 really super easy cards this month. I really gave you a good summer break. Just all single fold, super quick set to put together. It's going to be so handy to have the cards on hand, and you'll know why if you just kind of preview the collection and take a look at what we're doing there. And also, if you are not a member yet of Club Scrap, please subscribe. You will save $8 on every kit as a member. So it's a great value, 8 pages. Can't go wrong, especially because you know the outcome is going to be spectacular. If you're a first time joining me, thanks for hanging in there. I probably felt really fast to you, I'm sure, but as you practice and refine your skills, you'll be able to keep up with me just fine. I look forward to seeing you again in another Club Scrap workshop. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything from Club Scrap, and I'll see you soon.